Poetry uses meter, repetition, and rhythm to create meaning and momentum. Your financial life works the same way. Hello, 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 and welcome to More Than Money, a podcast where we have nuanced conversations about money, business, and life, where we take the time to explore the human side of money because success with money is never just about the numbers. I'm your host, Jacquette Timmons, and whether this is your very first episode or you're joining me for another, I am really, really glad that you are spending some time with me here today. So let's get into it. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You've heard this saying before, right? I believe it applies to the conversation that we started in the last episode about the parallels between poetry and money. Because a poem that I might love could be one that doesn't have any resonance with you. And similarly, the rhythm that drives your financial life may not work for me. But here is what is universal. We all have a financial rhythm. The question is whether it's one that you've chosen or one you have simply fallen into. And you've likely heard me share this story before. So if you have, you'll hear it again. And if this is your very first time, let me get into the details. So it's 2003, and my CPA at the time, may he rest in peace, Mr. Bethune, asked me a question that I was not expecting. Now, for a little bit more context, I had worked with him on my personal taxes by that point for 15 years and my business taxes for 8. So by the time that I sat at the side of his desk at this particular tax season, I was really proud of myself and my financial progress. And quite honestly, I thought he would be too. And I was ready to be told so. But instead, at the end of our meeting, he brought his glasses to the brim of his nose. And if you are like me, you know that whenever an elder does that, what follows isn't going to be what you want to hear. And so, with his finger pointing at me, something he had never done before, he says, "When are you going to stop mortgaging your life?" And actually, he said, "Jacquette, when are you going to stop mortgaging your life?" And I left his office shocked, mad, and confused. A few days later, I had a business bill to pay, but not enough in my business account to cover it. So I did what I had always done when that happened. Remember, it's 2003. We do not yet have online banking. So I went down to the bank branch, pulled a withdrawal slip from my personal savings account, a deposit slip for my business checking account, and I handed both to the teller. And standing there at that window is when something shifted because I could see held in my own hands. This was my pattern whenever my business needed money it didn't have. Sometimes I would dip into my savings. Other times I would sell securities. Other times I would go further into personal and business debt, something that I did not have when I started my business. Sometimes it was a combination of all three, and that was on repeat. So it turns out that Mr. Bethune was right. If I didn't interrupt that rhythm, I would end up mortgaging my life, not as a metaphor, as a reality. And by the way, I really want to say this. A question that I truly once resented soon became one for which I am incredibly grateful for. And it's why I share it every chance I get. So if you are hearing this story again or for the umpteenth time, I'm not even going to, say I'm sorry because I'm not, because I really, really want people to hear it, because my hope is that as it has been a blessing for me, it will be the same for other people. But let me get back to poetry and the whole thing about poetry and money, because poetry uses meter, repetition, and rhythm to create meaning and momentum. A villanelle, if you will, right? And a villanelle circles back to the same refrain. And each time it returns, the reason it lands differently is because it is carrying the weight of everything that came before it. Your financial life works the same way. The patterns that you repeat in terms of how you earn, how you save, how you invest, how you spend. What do you do when things get tight? Those aren't random. They have a beat. And that beat has been building for years, accumulating weight with every repetition, whether you've been paying attention to it or not. And the trouble is, most of us don't hear our own financial rhythm until someone or something makes it impossible to ignore. So for me, it was two slips of paper at a bank teller's window. For you, it might be a number that you keep seeing on your statement, a conversation you keep having, a feeling that, arrives reliably at the end of every month. And when the question I think becomes, what's the refrain that your financial life keeps returning to? Maybe it's spending freely all month and then scrambling in the final weeks before bills are due. Maybe it's saying, you know what, I'll start saving when I've paid off all my debt. Or maybe it's earning more than you ever have, yet somehow still feeling like it is not enough and that you are behind. Or maybe it's avoiding looking at your numbers altogether because not knowing feels safer than knowing. So, on the off chance you are unfamiliar with my financial flywheel exercise, it's designed to shift how you relate to your money. And it introduces you to a framework that helps you engage with your money by design rather than by default, which is how so many of us have been conditioned to relate to money. Not only does the financial flywheel help you to interrupt this pattern, it can also help you redesign your financial rhythm. And the components of the financial flywheel are earn, save, invest, and spend. These represent the four things that you can do with your money very broadly, yes, but the four things that you can do with your money, regardless of where you are on the income spectrum, the revenue spectrum, if you own a business, or the wealth spectrum. And for each area, I ask a series of questions. And I want to share with you a sampling. I'm not going to go into all of the questions for each one, but I want to share with you a sampling of questions. So I'll start with save. When you are the age of the oldest person that you know, what's the amount of money that would make you feel so incredibly proud to say that you once had in your savings account, even if it only sat there for a couple of days before you swept it into an investment? What's that amount of money? When we think about investing, there are really three ways to build financial wealth. How do you want to build yours? Will it be through investing in the stock market, investing in income producing real estate, owning a business? Do you want to do all three or some combination? And at what number or valuation would you say, yeah, I'm wealthy? What I find is most people don't think about that. And so you don't even know how far you are away from where you want to be. When we think about spending, if money were not an issue, what would be different about your current lifestyle? Would you still live in the same apartment, the same house, the same neighborhood, the same city, the same state, heck, even in the same country? What would be different about your lifestyle if money were not an issue? And then that brings us to earn. And there's a very intentional reason for why I go in this order of save, invest, spend, and earn. We can talk about that at another time as well. But when we talk about earn, how much do you want to earn in, say, 5 years? And if you own a business, what's the amount that you want your business to earn? And of that, what do you want to be able to pay yourself? Can you see or maybe even feel how each area contributes to your financial rhythm? This is why when one beat is off, you feel it everywhere. And it's just like a poem with a broken meter. It feels wrong, even to a reader who can't really name why. And the same is true when your financial life has a misaligned component. It creates a sense of unease that's really hard to diagnose. And I can tell you in my instance, I felt it, Mr. Bethune saw it, and two slips of paper named it. But here's the good news. The good news is that a broken rhythm isn't a permanent one, it's just a pattern. And patterns, once named, can be redesigned. So if you listened to the sampling of financial flywheel questions and you felt something stir in you, maybe it was recognition, maybe it was discomfort, maybe it was curiosity, or maybe a little bit of all three, that is worth paying attention to because that feeling is information. And if you'd like to explore what it would look like to redesign your financial rhythm with intention, I would love to have that conversation with you. And a discovery call is the absolutely perfect place to start because it's a chance for us to look at where you are, where you want to be, and whether working together makes sense. So send me a DM on Instagram and say discovery call, and I'll get you the scheduling link. And in the next episode, I'm going to close out this series of poetry and money with the most personal parallel of all. And that is the way both poetry and money ask you to find the universal in the particular and what your specific financial story might be telling you about what you truly believe that you deserve. But for today, that is it, folks. As always, thank you so much for listening or maybe even watching if you're joining me over there on YouTube. If you like what you've heard and you would like to show appreciation for this particular episode or this podcast overall, please do me a favor and share it with those in your circle because you help us to reach more people than we ever could on our efforts alone. And if you happen to be listening on Apple Podcasts, please take a moment and leave a rating and a review. I think we are up to like 32 ratings so far. We would love to get some more. And go on and not only just leave a 5-star rating, but again, a written review because we do read them. And of course, if you are on YouTube, please subscribe and comment below there as well. And you know, it's summertime now. So, and I love me a dirty chai iced latte with oat. So if you'd like to buy me a coffee, here's how you can do that. Buymeacoffee.com/Jaquette. Buymeacoffee.com/Jaquette. Thanks again for listening or watching. I will be back with another episode, and I hope that you will too. Until then, remember, it's about more than money.